We're going to have to do, and we'll talk about this next week, is have a second Bretton Woods. And for those who don't know what Bretton Woods was a convening of all the nations of the world following World War II and saying all the nations have had their currency just decimated with the war, except the United States, who came out of the war stronger. And so they adopted the US dollar and put us on a gold standard. Well, in 71, Nixon took us off of that and put us on a fiat system. So all of that has to change, and we have to have stability. So we're going to have a new Bretton Woods. America is not going to come out of that as in the position that we are now. We're not going to be the sole, keyword, sole reserve currency. But if Donald Trump has his way, and we'll break this down more next week, we will still come out as the dominant world's reserve currency. There may be 3 or 4 other currencies, but we will still retain our dominance.
Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today. But Faith and Freedom TV fights back with truth. Our bold content, news, shows, Bible teachings, worship, and films shines with biblical conviction and patriotic courage, free from globalist lies. We empower Christian patriot creators to share faith and liberty. Access thousands of videos on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS. Join the battle at faithandfreedom.tv.
Hi, everyone. It's Monday the 18th, and I'm coming at you from my home here in Branson, Missouri. It's a beautiful day. But anyway, we got some things we need to talk about. I think basically the general public is just falling asleep because it's taken so long to get to the point where we're at now. But I basically want to get you to pay attention and to realize that we have the opportunity of a lifetime now. With the things that are coming out, we have a real chance of getting back our nation. But what has to happen is we have to unite and stand together, one nation under God. And how that's going to happen is there is going to be disclosure after disclosure after disclosure from whistleblowers, and we're going to be able to find out what's been done to us. Because before this all comes down and before arrests happen, we have to know the truth. We have to expose those that have been our slave masters. So what this presentation is going to do is start the process of digging into the lies that have been perpetrated on us. And we're going to start with telling you exactly what Donald Trump has done to literally save this nation. So let's go to the first slide and we'll start our presentation. Most people don't realize that we were within inches, I mean virtual inches, of absolutely having a near-death experience. America, if we had gotten Hillary Clinton in, we'd be dead by now, because it was a long train of people that had built on each other's espionage and the things that they had done. Carter taking us into trade with China, and the Clintons and the Bushes and the Obamas and Biden all sold out to the global financial elite. But God had other plans. God wants to save this nation. He wants to use this nation again. And we need to know the truth. And we need to rally around our president, who's doing everything he can to restore this nation to greatness, and to basically also at the same time unite us and bring us back together and revitalize not only our economy, but our patriotism and our Christian values. So let's go to the next slide and we'll get into the details. You see a link down there, and feel free to click on that. That's Tulsi Gabbard. This has now been going on for a while, and I played this last week, so I'm just going to tell you. Basically, what Tulsi Gabbard is doing is exposing the treason that started with Hillary Clinton when she initiated what? The Russiagate scandal. Why? Because she had 32,000 emails that she needed to draw your attention away from. So she started the Russiagate scandal. And the narrative that was happening within the intelligence community at that time was contrary to what she was saying. Basically, it said Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to interfere in our election in any meaningful way. But once she lost the election and once Trump had gotten elected, here's what happened. Obama just absolutely had a crisis. a midlife crisis. He said, we can't have that man come in because he is our mortal enemy. We're here to collapse America on behalf of the global financial elite, and he just might accidentally save it. Remember, Obama said, what are you going to do, Trump? Are you going to wave a magic wand? And Trump said, yep. And that's when he came in with his first term of all that opposition against him and still managed to take the stock market from 10,000 to 30,000 and did some amazing things. Well, what he's doing now is even more amazing. So where we're at now is all of this is being exposed, and we're finding out that not only Hillary started the Russiagate scandal, but when Trump got in, Obama called all of his inner circle in and said, we're going to change that narrative. We're now going to put out a new narrative, and it's going to say, this is what Trump did. He colluded with the Russians to basically destroy America, the exact opposite of what this man has done. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to break it down, and I'm going to give you some details. So most people, I hope you understand by now, we have been lied to. Every single solitary institution in this country has been taken over. We wouldn't be here as a country if it wasn't for the fact that some 200 generals got together and said, we can't allow what's going on. We aren't subject to the Constitution. We're subject to the law of war manual, and we have to stand up and save this country. So they went to Donald Trump and said, Mr. Trump, we want you to run for presidency. And here I want you to see the diametrically opposite position of Barack Obama. And I want to be careful. This quote is attributed to Obama, but it says, you just have to supply the nation's public square with enough raw sewage. You have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that the citizens no longer know what to believe once they lose the trust in their leaders, in the mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth. The game is won. And that's where the global financial elite think they have us, but they don't. The truth is coming out, and Americans are going to stand up, and they're going to say, we're enough of being part of a debt system that enslaves us. We're done being part of a system that won't let us have medical care. We're done with being as part of a system that makes sure that we don't hardly have enough money to even get by on. So contrary to what Obama and Hillary were saying, look at what's down below. This is basically the truth of what was going on. Zuckerberg admitted to spending $400 million to do what? To keep Trump from being elected. And he admitted, listen to this now, that Biden officials pressured Meta to censor information to harm Trump's campaign. In other words, what did they do? Whatever they have accused Trump of is in reality what they themselves did. Let's go to the next slide. And this comes back from me researching this man since he first stepped foot on a podium and announced that he was going to run for office. Basically, let me do something to my computer over here. Give me just 1 second. When he stepped on, I'm going to tell you a little personal story. When Trump stepped on the golden escalator, I had no interest in him. But the minute he stepped on there, I thought, I heard God say, this is my anointed. The minute I saw Barack Obama, if you bring that up so I can read that slide, I'm going to read through that slide now real quick. When I saw him, here's what I said. He was running for Congress, and the people I was with, we were watching a football game, said, that man is articulate. He's going to be president someday. And I had heard God say, no, yes, he will be president, but he is our mortal enemy. So I followed him for ages. So up in that upper left-hand corner, you see a picture that's from a magazine cover in the New Yorker. And what are they doing? They're depicting him and his wife as Muslim terrorists. And down below, you see him in full Muslim garb. And then down below that, you see what you're seeing is the playing of the anthem. And you see Hillary Clinton over to the far right, and Obama stands there and will not put his hand over his heart. And then below his picture, you see the infamous cargo planes that did what? That sent billions of dollars to Iran, who had basically been bankrupt by sanctions. And now all of a sudden they had money, all kinds of money, to promote terrorism. So let me read you out of his own words. his indictment. We should have seen this, folks. Here's what I contend. I think this is going to come out. We are going to find out that he wasn't elected to the Senate. It was a stolen seat. That he wasn't elected to the president. With all this we see out here, I don't see how it possibly could have been. Now, he had the cover of the media basically trying to suppress everything, but there was so much stuff out there. The birth certificate issue, which we're going to find out, by the way, he really is not a U.S. citizen. What is that going to do? This is where you guys have to get involved. Once we find out that we can prove that election fraud happened, that he wasn't even a U.S. citizen, there are going to be opportunities to basically tear the global financial elite apart, to clear out Washington, drain the swamp, and to get our republic back. So here's a little bit of what you need to know about Obama. Obama said, "The sweetest sound I know is the Muslim call to prayer." Now, I've read the Quran, and if you once make that announcement, if you basically announce that you are a Muslim for life, and that means anybody who is not a Muslim is your mortal enemy. And Obama said he would dream, what did I say? I'm sorry. He would disarm America to a level acceptable to his Muslim brothers. Well, did he? Yes, in fact, he did. Because when Trump came back in, he had to spend $1 trillion to bring our military back up to a state of readiness. For the first time in the history of the United States, we did not have the capability to fight a military engagement on two fronts. And then what else did he say? I will stand with the Muslims. Listen to this. Should the political winds shift in an ugly direction. And that's right out of his book, Audacity of Hope, on page 261. And then he went on to say, Obama refused to place his hand over the Bible. We talked that a minute. Over his heart during the Pledge of Allegiance. And then Obama said pallets of money. We talked about that a second ago. And when asked about this is done twice. When asked about his faith, he said, my Muslim faith. And then he repeated that on the dreams of my father. So he is declaring out of his own mouth that he is a Muslim, that he hates America, that he will stand with our enemy. And then look at the bottom of this. He says, I found solace in nursing a perverse sense of grievance, animosity against my mother's race. That would be the Caucasian race. That would be the predominant race in the United States of America. So, folks, can there be any doubt that this man is a globalist, that he stands against America? So don't listen to what he says. Don't listen to what Biden says. Don't listen to what any of the presidents we've had in the last 20 or 30 years say. We need to listen to the one man ordained by God, and that is Donald J. Trump. And we're going to look at some tangible facts that tell us what he did. So let's go to the next slide. And what we're going to do is break down what the global financial elite puppeting of Biden made sure we did not do. Because if these things had been done during Biden's administration or during Obama's administration, America would not have been to the point that it was near virtual, absolute economic moral collapse. So the economy, reduction of the national debt. So what is Trump going to do? He's going to do a whole plethora of things, and we're going to get to them in a minute. But one is he's going to revalue gold. And with that, he's going to be able to pay down our national debt ostensibly. State of the Union, he basically did what? They had the Russiagate, but they also hid the fact of what the real enemy was: China collusion. It was China who was really interfering in our election. And the open borders, and any country that does not have a sovereign border does not have a nation to be sovereign over. And then the surge in crime, where did that come from? That came from all the illegal immigrants coming into this country, and all the fentanyl and all the drug trafficking, and also from policies that came from Washington, where all of a sudden you could be in a riot, burning a building down, looting, get arrested, and be taken to a police station, and within hours, the money from the global financial elite, from the NGOs, they would bail you out. You wouldn't even have to have a bail. After a while, they basically got to release without any bail at all. And then division, basically they had groups that did nothing but basically just destroy everything that we believed in: the family, Christianity, everything, turn everything inside out and upside down. And then abortion, they were against the sanctity of life. And then censorship, they were against the First Amendment. So that's something that I know personally, because I've been out doing these shows for 2 years. And now it's just now that I'm able to come on YouTube, because I wasn't able to go on because I vowed I was going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And so I had to seek an alternative platform. And gun control, basically, there's every time they create an opportunity where they have a mass shooting, then they come to try to take our guns away. And the new Green Deal, that is one of the biggest scams that the world has ever seen. Those solar panels are consuming massive amounts of silver that we urgently need for other purposes. We are on the brink. Donald Trump saw to it in his first term that he put the stage together with the Chevron deal. So during this administration, we are going to get access to some 6,000 patents that will give us access to free energy. And when that happens, I want you to think about what it means. It means that the central cost of every commodity item you ever bought in your life is energy. So that means that everything you buy going forward, once Trump gets these patents out and implemented, will cost you dramatically less, maybe as much as 50% or more cheaper than it is today. And the foreign policies, he stood with China, he stood with Russia, he stood against the United States. And we're going to find that on that stance, he will be found guilty of treason. And so I just went to the doctor the other day and tried to get some medicine for parasites and couldn't get it. So that's just an example of how the healthcare system is also being used against us and how we will get that back as well. But the really, really big issue is the allegations of election fraud. Once we prove, once and for all, once Tulsi Gabbard gets these charges brought and we find out what these people have done, then we're going to have wholesale people leaving corporations, leaving banks, leaving the political arena, and we are going to be able to get our Constitution back, get our government back, and we are going to be able to once again be the nation that God always intended us to be. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll break this down a little deeper. So this is stuff that Trump is doing. He's doing election reform, and he knows that if you do not have a sovereign border, you don't have a nation. But if you don't have an election, that's even more important. You surely don't have a nation. So here's what he's doing. He knows what they've done. He knows the plans they have to basically gerrymander the voting districts. He knows what they're trying to do with the census. So he's going to have a new census in 26, and he's going to make sure that what he tried to do in the first term gets done. They're going to ask a simple question. Are you a U.S. citizen? Because if we don't ask that question, then the liberal states will get several new representatives in the House, and they will also get a disproportionate amount of money. So basically, he's going to do that. He's going to declare that the voter rolls are so contaminated that he has to have absolutely new voter rolls. And we're going to have what? Something we've asked for forever. We're going to have IDs, and we're going to have paper ballots, get rid of the drop boxes, same day results, because when they get in trouble, they just suspend the election until they can get the number of ballots or number of votes they need. So this is what he's planning on doing. And in my honest opinion, it will give us the first honest election we have had possibly in my entire lifetime. So we have nothing to fear from Donald Trump. We should be celebrating the fact that this man is in office. He is here to bring America back from the brink of utter and absolute collapse. Let's go on to the next slide. And this is another biggie. This is stuff that is so obvious, but yet we don't seem to understand it. He is basically standing for the United States of America and for our sanctity. So what has he done? He's done something that people just can't hardly believe. He said, hey, we have borders. And to the north, we have Canada, which is our enemy. And to Mexico, and to the south, we have Mexico as our enemy. And he said, we're going to declare the cartels that have come into this country as terrorists, and we're going to go wherever we have to go. If it's Latin America, if it's Mexico, it's South America, and we're going to eradicate them because they represent a giant threat to the national security of the United States of America. And if you look down at the below, you'll see two graphics that basically say we have been told forever that the largest purveyor of drugs probably in the entire world is our own CIA, and that's going to come out. An assault on the cartels in Mexico is going to liberate us. And let me stop and put it this way. If you look at the wars that we've been involved in, we've lost more people to the drug traffickers than we have to the actual kinetic wars that we've been in. And I bet this is something that most of you don't know. When a truck comes across the border into the United States, it has to go to customs. And do you know where that customs port is, that first one? It's in Kansas City. And do you know this? I can't even fathom this. It is sovereign territory of the Mexican government. So they send their stuffs across the border in the United States, and it is their people who inspect it. Is it any wonder that we have drug trafficking and where we have human trafficking coming into this country? So he's going to close the borders and deport the illegals. And look at what they did to stop that. So they let all these people in, all these drugs and all these terrorists, and then the judges who've been bought and paid for, or who have been what's the word I want? Blackmailed, do everything they can do to keep those criminals in this country. That's going to stop as well, and cut off the U.S. funding of NGOs. So we're about to find out that those caravans were not generic. They weren't organic. They were funded by the U.S. government, by a myriad of NGOs, by charitable organizations, by religious organizations, and they all are going to be exposed. And when that happens, we're going to get our freedom. There's going to be no bailouts for sanctuary cities. And why is that important? Because money is what buys the power that allows them to do all of these things that have so endangered the sovereignty of the United States of America. Let's go to the next slide if we can. And this is, I don't want to put this on Trump because this might be something that some people say they don't want to have this happen, but I believe it's crucial. Basically, we have upwards of 20 million illegal immigrants that have come into this country since 2019. Well, I think they were all part of a plan to collapse America from within. But we have some culpability to those who came here 20, 30 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, because we let them come. Why? Because we wanted people to work in our restaurants and our hotels and our agricultural fields. So we were complicit in allowing them to come here and allowing them to start their families. We owe it to them to see to it that they don't have their families torn apart and they don't be taken out of the nation that they've lived in peacefully for most of their adult life. So what I'm proposing is something very simple. You see that star on that driver's license up above? I have to have that so that I can travel in the United States and internationally. All I say we need to do to basically not rip this nation apart and declare that we are going to have a civil war is just put a G on those driver's licenses for those people who came here legally years ago. Don't give them up half the citizenship, but don't kick them out of the country either. Recognize the fact that we allowed that to happen. We are culpable and reliable, and we need to basically be able to let these people stay for our benefit and theirs. Let's go to the next slide. And all I want to say here is don't blame Trump. I need you to understand with absolute certainty there absolutely must be a financial collapse, because he who controls money controls the world. And what's Trump going to do to get back that control of the United States of America? Where does that money come from? It comes from manufacturing and trade. That money then buys all the sphere of influence. So Trump has to rebuild our manufacturing and our trade so we can get our GDP up, so we can get out of national debt. We have almost $12 trillion. Is 1/3 of our $37 trillion national debt that needs to be refinanced this year. And what's he doing? He's pushing to take power away from the Fed. Eventually, the Fed is going to be disbanded, in my opinion, if it hasn't already been. And the Treasury will be put in place, and then we will be back under the system that we are supposed to be, except we have to get completely out, because we have to get out from under the fiat system. And coming up next week, we're going to do a 3-part series. I'm going to do 3 different days in a row, and we're going to talk about the financial system and how it's a complete and absolute debt system, and how we're going to get out from under it, and the role that Donald Trump is going to play in doing that. So let's go to the next slide. This is a real quick one. Basically, there are older people like me who want to see paper. So there will be paper currency. There it is. It's already been printed. But we're also going to get out from the fiat system where every dollar that's printed is just a computer entry with a decimal point. There's nothing backing it. We're going to go to a gold and commodity backed system, God system. And then I've talked about this last portion of this slide in detail before. But if you have a commodity-backed system, say gold, you're not going to go to a grocery store and you're not going to buy a loaf of bread with a gold coin that maybe costs $3,000. You're going to have a way to fractionalize it. You're going to have a way to transfer those commodities from nation to nation, and that's XRP. So we're going to basically get a new economic system backed by gold, and also with quantum computing and with XRP and XLM as the rails to provide the liquidity to transfer wealth cheaply and quickly around the world. This is the new system that's coming, and it's going to have unbelievable benefits for the people of America. And oh, by the way, while we're speaking of gold, how much is gold selling for today? Do you have any idea? 3,000, more than that, somewhere around in there? Do you know how much it's valued at on our books? I have to laugh.
Elitist media deceives, but Faith and Freedom TV amplifies truth. Our world-leading platform delivers news, teachings, worship, movies, and music rooted in biblical values and constitutional patriotism, inspiring faith and liberty. We inspire, equip, and amplify Christian patriots to share powerful stories of faith, family, and freedom. With live events, thousands of on-demand videos, and access on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS, we're transforming culture globally for God and country. New content is coming to ignite faith. Join our mission to counter deception. Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today.
$42. So one of the things Trump is looking to do is revalue gold. I don't know to what. It certainly will be something higher than $3,000. It might be $5,000. I don't know what it'll be. But think about what it does. Without selling 1 ounce of gold, our gold holdings are multiplied unbelievably. And what can we do with that money? We can use it to pay off most or all of our $37 trillion national debt. And when that happens, we get out from under something that I'll be talking about next week, which is the progressive, meaning getting larger and larger and larger, unconstitutional tax structure that we're under. And we'll be able to set up an economic system that allows us to go back to the system we had when this nation was founded. All we had was a simple sales tax. I'll go into that in detail next week, so we don't need to belabor it here. But let's go to the next slide. And once this new system is put into place, here's the outcome. Voltaire said that eventually all paper currency defaults to its real value, which is what? Nothing. So once we get out from under the fiat system, that's just a decimal point in a computer, we go to quantum computing system with XRP and blockchain and XLM. Here's the result. They will no longer be able to cause inflation, deflation, wage suppression, stock market manipulation, boom bust cycles. National and consumer debt will be virtually wiped out. Poverty and division will be virtually wiped out. We'll understand how we've been controlled and we'll stand together. And guess what? It was Eisenhower who said, is there any man, is there any woman, is there any child that does not understand that the principal cause of war is inequity between nations? That's going to be wiped out, because this whole process has to bring us to a situation in order to have global financial trade that's not too volatile. What we're going to have to do, and we'll talk about this next week, is have a second Bretton Woods. And for those who don't know what Bretton Woods was a convening of all the nations of the world following World War II and saying all the nations have had their currency just decimated with the war, except the United States, who came out of the war stronger. And so they adopted the US dollar and put us on a gold standard. Well, in 71, Nixon took us off of that and put us on a fiat system. So all of that has to change, and we have to have stability. So we're going to have a new Bretton Woods. America is not going to come out of that as in the position that we are now. We're not going to be the sole, keyword sole, reserve currency. But if Donald Trump has his way, and we'll break this down more next week, we will still come out as the dominant world's reserve currency. There may be 3 or 4 other currencies, but we will still retain our dominance. And it all has to do with something that Trump is doing right now, which is everything he's doing with tariffs. And by the way, for those of you who don't know how America became the wealthiest nation in the world originally, was with tariffs. We had gone bankrupt after the Civil War, and basically what we did is we said we're going to impose tariffs on England of up to 50% or more. And what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. So all of a sudden, Americans couldn't afford to buy free, cheap goods from England. And so what did we have to do? We had to innovate. We developed the Industrial Revolution. We developed the Intercontinental Railroad system. We got control of our natural resources, and we manufactured and became the country that led the world into an industrial revolution. And on our 100th year anniversary, we said America, the youngest nation in the world, is now the wealthiest. Well, what happened before can happen again. God always gives us a foreshadow, so we've got a blueprint. Trump is not out there experimenting. He knows what worked before, and he's just implementing it again. Let's go to the next slide, and this was just real simple. It's basically just he who controls money controls the world, and the genesis of money comes from trade. That is why Donald J. Trump is basically doing what he's doing. And they're saying with the big, huge, beautiful bill that it's going to drive us into debt. No, it's not. I'll just give you one simple fact. They said, he might add $5 trillion to the national debt. Well, we've already got commitments for $10 trillion to build factories. And that means our GDP goes through the roof. And that means employment goes through the roof and salaries go through the roof. And so I see absolutely nothing wrong with increasing our financial stability and growing our GDP and making America sovereign again. Let's go on to the next slide. It's real simple. So once we get control of the money, we get control of these things, which are currently controlled by the global financial elite. We get to drain the swamp, meaning we get to get rid of the politicians, the corrupt bankers, the corrupt CEOs that are leaving their corporations by the droves, the military industrial complex that drives us into perpetual wars. And they fund both sides of that war. And then after the war is over, they rebuild those nations so they make money by providing armaments during the war and then rebuilding the countries afterwards. And we're going to get back our education system. So one of the first things Trump did is he got rid of the Federal Department of Education and put it back into control of the family. And I'm on YouTube now for the first time. So he's made that possible. And the entertainment center is going to be exposed. I've shown you before the smut that comes out of Disney. And unfortunately, even our religious institutions have been usurped with the 501c. We're going to get back all of that. Now, let me stop. That's just simple stuff. You do those 8 things, and you can only do it if you have sovereign money and you have got your government back. They tell us it's too complicated. What are you going to do? Wave a magic wand? You're looking at the magic wand, folks. There it is right there. It's that simple. God always told me, I'm going to give you so much information that you will be able to see everything from the 60,000 fair foot view. You won't be having to be down in the forest where you can't see what's going on. And so I'm just connecting the dots for you and telling you we are winning. We are going to win. It was ordained from the foundation of time that America had a role to play. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to get into more of Trump's Make America Great program. So manufacture your products in America. Here's what he's saying. What was it? Xi Jinping said, "Oh, Trump, if you put this tariff program into place, all the nations of the world are going to abandon you and they're going to run to China, and you're going to really be sorry that you did." No, all the nations abandoned China and came to the United States. And what did Trump say to them? Look, guys, this is just me trying to create a level playing field. If you don't want to have high tariffs, you don't have to have them. Just come here, make your products in America, and you won't have to pay tariffs. And oh, by the way, we're changing the tax laws. You're going to have some of the cheapest taxes in the world. So I will win, America will win, you will win. So why not do it? Make your products outside of this country, however, and you will pay tariffs. And its choice is yours, but you have a choice to not have those price leverages placed upon you. Reinstate the American economic system. That's something that he's going to do. I bet you most of you don't even know what that is. That was a unique system that enabled America to be a republic. It was a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It came out of the Industrial Revolution, which when we developed the Industrial Revolution, we did something unheard of. Instead of hoarding everything and basically stealing everything from all the third world countries, we shared the technology and the resources, and we benefited as the innovators of that resource, and they benefited as the adopters. And so basically we were on a trajectory where every nation in the world was having an increase in their standard of living. Of the American economic system, it was said that it was the only system ever devised, the tendency of which was that of doing what? Elevating while equalizing the condition of man throughout the world. That's what we're going to do again. We cannot have peace and prosperity unless we do what's right on this slide, equalizing and elevating the condition of every man throughout the world, every man, every nation throughout the entire world. Let's go on to the next slide. And I'm going to just skim through this real quick. This is what Trump's agenda is. See, it just keeps getting simpler and simpler. Just drain the swamp by getting control of the money. That way you can get out from under the central banking system, which is the debt system that enslaves us. You can get out from under the corporations. The corporations are now even more powerful than the banks, and we can drain the swamp once we find out what? That we haven't had an honest election in probably over 100 years. There it is, folks. All we're waiting for is the treasure trove of truth to come out. And Tulsi Gabbard is basically standing at the door saying, folks, we are going to bring criminal charges against the bankers, the corporate leaders, and the politicians that have usurped the U.S. Constitution and have committed treason against the American population. Let's go on to the next slide, and we'll see that Trump basically has prepared everything in advance. This is not something that was new. Remember, 200 generals came to him and said, we have a plan for how to save America from being utterly, completely, and absolutely destroyed. And so all of this has been in the workings for a long, long time, going back initially all the way back to the assassination of Kennedy. So what have they done? This is not something that is currently in the law, but it's something that he's drafted to let us know where he's going. So before he left the first office, his first term, he did this. He wrote a new Declaration of Independence for the United States of America. And I'm going to read you that one paragraph. It says, trusting in our, let me set up so I can read it. Trusting our cause is just, and having prayed for the fortitude of brave spiritual weaknesses. There you go. Now I can read it. In high places, we citizens of America make this announcement to the shareholders of what? Of the U.S. corporation, including what? The City of London, the British Crown, and the Vatican. Those are our enemies, folks. Those are the people that control the financial elite that enslave us and their operatives. That means all those people in those banks and those corporations and the political positions and in the media and so on and so forth. And so he was declaring our independence, not from Britain, but from the corporation of 1871, and giving us our independence back in a Declaration of Independence that I hope will be authorized and signed in this term. Let's go on. But plans are made to give us back not only that, but to do something else, to basically understand that we have a constitution now that has been used by the people that have usurped our government to pass laws that are not in the interest of the people of America, but have been used to create a legal dictatorship. And so what we also have to do is we have to have a new constitution. No, not a new constitution. No, the American people would never stand for that. We have to get our original constitution back, the one that stood for God and family and patriotism, the one that made America great. So let's go on to this slide. And this is the core of what made America great. This is what our founding fathers put in that document that made it so unique. It was about God and country and morality. And here's what the globalists know. This is from Joseph Stalin. America is like a healthy body, and its resistance is its patriotism, its morality, and its spirituality. If we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. Well, think of the LGBT movement. Think of what they've done to us to basically take away our morality and to divide us. They have divided us in every way you can imagine. And what does my Bible tell me? A nation divided cannot stand. So we are going to go back to our foundation in every way, shape, and form. So let's go to the next slide. And this is something that I have a little insider information on, because one of the people that I was fortunate enough to become friends with is a man named Robert A.G., who is involved in the centennial celebration of the 250th year anniversary of the United States of America. We are starting on December the 26th of this year for an entire year. Donald Trump has orchestrated a celebration of America, going to every single solitary state in the Union and even over into Alaska and Hawaii. And when he goes, there's a convoy of about 30 semis. They're going to be loaded onto big U.S. cargo planes and flown into Alaska and flown into Hawaii. I just wish I could be there to see that. That would be something. But what are they going to celebrate? America's history, America's heritage, America's values, the innovations that America has given to the world, the leadership that America stands for, and the restoration of America's patriotism. So when this is all over, all the lies that we've been told are going to be done away with, erased, just like you walked up to a chalkboard and erased them. We're going to have an opportunity to once again say, my neighbor is my friend. And we're going to have an opportunity to say, I'm going to openly pray to God in this nation, and I'm going to fly my American flag with pride. We're going to have our foundation restored. That's coming back. That's coming up within this next year. Let's go to the next slide. And this is something near and dear to my heart, because I've been out here trying to tell the truth, and I've been censored. I've been muzzled. But basically, one of the first things that Trump did is he came in and he passed an executive order against censorship. And so it's taking a while, but the robots are being removed, and we now have an increasingly more and more open ability to tell the truth in this country. So that's coming, and when it comes, the truth will set us free. What God told me when I had my near-death experience in 1968 is that finally, when America got its freedom, it would be because we would find out what had been done to us, and the truth would open our eyes, and that would set us free, because we would finally stand united, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's go to the next slide. And this kind of begins to wrap it up. So, of everything I've said, of everything I will say, this is all you really need to know. For America to be great, to be the greatest nation the world has ever seen, to be the nation that God intended it to be, this is all we have to do. Control our natural resources, control our manufacturing. So Trump is going around the world getting access to natural resources. He's opening up federal lands for mining and for drilling. And he has got in already commitments for $10 trillion to build manufacturing plants. And he has gotten rid of tons of regulations that stood in the way. And he has said to people, you bring in $1 billion to build a plant, and I'll see to it that every obstruction imaginable is taken away, and you will be able to start building that plant in no time. And then with all of that, we start manufacturing, and then we move from what is currently now the number 2 position in trade to where we used to be number 1. And that converts into money. America gets rid of its $37 trillion debt in all kinds of different ways. When we get all those factories going, that fires up our GDP. When we value the gold, that wipes out a lot of our national debt. And there's many other things. But we do those 4 things, and America is well on its way to becoming the nation that God intended. All we have to do next, which should be easy, is we have to get back control of our family, our religion, our education, our media, our entertainment, our politics, our economy, and our military complex. And it's so simple. If we can hear the truth will set us free. And all those things will happen innately because we don't want to be twisted and turned and fight people. We want to live in a world where we understand that to harm another is to harm ourselves. That's the world God wants. And the last thing down there is restoration of our patriotism, our Christian, and our family values. The central thing they have tried to take away from us because they knew it stood for the core of who we are. A nation is not great just based upon its economic prowess. It is great because of its moral statute, because of what it stands for, because it stands for freedom and dignity. And that's what America brings to the world. And that's why the world is rooting for the United States of America. This is where we put it all together. The primary cause of war is an inequality between nations. So we must have a financial collapse. And when that happens, here's what's going to happen. All the first world countries' currencies are going to go down. So let's pause at that moment and let's see what's going to happen with the United States. Basically, this is not an accident. Trump is pushing to devalue our currency. Why is he doing that? Because if he lowers the interest rates, devaluing our currency, it actually makes us more competitive in global markets. It basically is a good thing for the United States. They try to say it's bad, but no, it's essential. So think of all the nations in Europe, all their currencies are going to go down. All the first world hegemony nations, their currencies are going to go down. And what's going to happen when we go away from the fiat system to a system based on God's natural resources? Some of the wealthiest nations in the world are the third world countries. We've been stealing their natural resources, and now they're standing up and uniting and saying, no more. You want our gold or oil or lithium or whatever it is, you can have it. But you're gonna enter into agreement with us that gives us a fair deal, and we're not going to sell it to you as raw materials. We're going to refine it and sell it to you. We're going to become competitors. We're no longer going to be used. And so when that happens, their currencies go up, our currencies go down. We meet in the middle. And what does that give us? That gives us economic parity. And that is exactly what we got at the end of World War II. We went into Bretton Woods. And so that what you're looking at is effectively a diagram of a new Bretton Woods, which is when it's essential to have an economic system that allows peace and prosperity, not just for one nation, but for all the nations of the world. That is the blueprint right there for what gives peace and prosperity to the world. So basically what we're going to see is something that we've not seen in my lifetime. We're going to see, instead of perpetual wars that last forever and drive us into debt and kill millions and millions of people, we're going to have an opportunity to see peace and prosperity, economic equality between all the nations of the world. So with this, let's go to the next slide, and we're going to start to wrap things up again. Why America is the only nation capable of bringing peace and prosperity to the world. It's real simple, folks. We're the only nation that the other nations of the world trust. We've been the nation that's had the most freedom, and the people come here because they want freedom. We have a diverse and abundant natural resources. We have a diverse and innovative economy. So one of the things you have to be a leader is you can't have an economy just based on oil or gas or one or two things. You have to have a very diverse economy so that you can weather all the ups and downs of the economic world that we live in. And you have to have leadership in manufacturing and trade. America was, before we ceded power to China, we were the undisputed economic leader of the world, the number one manufacturing center of the world. We will be again. Manufacturing is leaving China by droves, and America will emerge as the undisputed manufacturing leader of the world. Now, we're not going to be as powerful in this regard as China was, because we're going to have manufacturing spread around the entire world so that we can no longer have the logistics chain controlled, and they can control the necessities of life like they used to. And one of the things that Trump did, he set up to have us be able to have free energy, which will reduce the cost of all of of the natural resources, that's not what I want to say, of all of the retail purchases that we make. The demographics are very important. So Japan has a very, very old demographic, which is bad for the economy, and so does China. But we have a fairly young demographic, and so that's another factor that contributes to our control. And we are the global language of the world. That is huge. And we have global reach. We have a strong military. And what we've been done in the past is since China got involved in this, we have been the military police force of the world, and the UN has not been paying their share. I should say NATO has not paid their share. So basically what did Trump do? He stepped up to the table and he said 5%. And now we're going to be the police force, but it's not going to be just on our nickel. And humanitarian outreach, that is something that the heart of the American people have done and will do. So the American economy will be restored. Then, when we're strong, we will be in a position to take all these factors and help all the other nations of the world be strong. And we'll finally see a world that's in peace and has prosperity and has time and opportunity to develop spiritual growth. And that is what God has always intended for mankind. So that takes us to a slide that I wanted to end with to put a smile on her face. Mankind's destiny awaits, and it is not one of war. It's one of peace and prosperity and equality throughout the world. All nations are going to find out that to harm another is to harm ourselves. That is the destiny of America, to bring that about. And that takes us to our next to the last slide. And with all this coming down, here's what has to happen. We need you all to pay attention. I think we've all been asleep because we've lost hope in ever getting the truth. But the truth is coming out right now. The whistleblowers are coming out, and we have to stand united, and we have to know what's going on so that we don't have something happen that has happened in virtually every other nation in the world that ever had some kind of a major revolt, a major turnover that changed the powers in the be, and that is that they ended up worse than ever. So we need the American people to understand what made America great in detail, how we have lost it, what they've done to take it away from us, how we get it back, and how we keep it. And if you go to that last slide, this is what God had me do. He ordained me for 56 years ago and had me spend my entire life studying. So at this pinnacle moment in time, I could bring out a book that tells you exactly that. What made America great, how we lost it, how we get it back, and how we keep it. We need an army of informed people to stand up and take this republic back. And you cannot have a republic if you don't have an educated population, an informed population, a population willing to vote their conscience based on what's the best interest of the nation, not voting for handouts. Everything you ever needed to know about what made America great and how we make it great again is in that book. So I ask you, please, at this pivotal point in time, buy this book, read it, then don't put it on a bookshelf. Give it to somebody, preferably somebody who doesn't share your opinions, and see if we can't make some converts to dedicated to making America once again the greatest nation in the world and to ushering in the revival that God absolutely intends for this world. So with that, that's it for this week. I will see you next.
Economic chaos is shaking the markets. Trade tensions, government overreach, and global uncertainty are driving volatility to historic highs. But in times of crisis, gold and silver shine as safe haven assets just as they have for centuries. Right now, you have a rare opportunity to protect your wealth with Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Call 720-605-3900 or visit kepm.com/B2T to learn how to reposition your retirement into low-cost 100% liquid gold and silver bullion. No high commission coins, no overpriced collectibles. KEPM educates you, charges no commission when you sell, and keeps your investment secure. Beware of firms pushing rare coins with sky-high markups. Stick with bullion for maximum liquidity and value. Seize this moment to thrive in uncertain times. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900 or go to kepm.com/B2T today. Real assets, real security, real future. The quantum effect wipes out pain and allergy symptoms in less than 30 seconds with zero drugs. Pastor Dave and hundreds of others have experienced the quantum effect for themselves. It's backed by scientific research and rigorous lab testing. Quantum is simply about two things. One, intentions, as a man thinketh so he is, and two, renewing your mind with the Word of God. Only QE Strong encodes key intentions and Bible verses about healing onto the small patch. You simply place it on your body each day, and with a bonus prayer guide, read out loud a positive intention and 1 or 2 Bible verses about healing each day. The patch provides the touch, and the prayer guide uses your sight, speech, and hearing to relieve pain and allergy symptoms with the senses God gave you. It even works for people who have suffered decades of chronic symptoms. Are you ready to experience the quantum effect?
Go to QEstrong.com and use code FAITH at
Terrell Owens here. On the field, I brought energy every single game. But let's be real. Sometimes the fatigue in the brain can make you feel like you're running on fumes. That's where Exodus Strong and their Fatigue to Fire playbook come into play. It's a complete 40-day blueprint with a checklist, an in-depth ebook, plus daily prayer and Bible study guides to rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. Don't wait. Get in the game. To truly get in the game, the one that matters most, you need strength built on a divine foundation, the energy God intended for you. Exodus Strong unites 7 sacred ingredients from Scripture, each chosen for its divine purpose with breakthrough science that unlocks their power. This is more than a supplement. It's a daily ritual to honor your body and restore the vitality God intended for you. No artificial stimulants, just His perfect design, activated. Join the movement of 1 million believers reclaiming their God-given strength. Your journey begins today. Visit toexodus.com to start your Fatigue to Fire transformation.